Welcome to the Oshkosh Area School Board segment of our Candidates Forum, presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media. This event will be simulcast on WOCT 101.9 FM radio. I am Frankie Mengling, Winnebago County League of Women Voters, your moderator. The League of Women Voters seeks to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidates. Joining me on the panel for this portion of the forum is Oshkosh West High School student Grace Halstead. She is a member of Rethink Youth Coalition. 4 candidates are competing for 3 seats on the Oshkosh Area School Board. Alphabetically, the incumbent candidates are Jim Evans, Allison Garner, Kelly Olmsted. The challenger is Liz Szilagyi. The term of office for school board members is 3 years. Now, our timekeeper will give you cues, and we thank you in advance for keeping your answers short so that we may cover as many issues as possible. Audience questions addressed to all candidates are welcome. Please submit in writing to the League representatives. Candidates receive the first 2 questions in advance. So we will begin with those in alphabetical order. Summarize your background, qualifications, and your reason for seeking election or re-election to the Oshkosh Area School Board. In your opinion, what are the key upcoming school-related opportunities, initiatives, positives to be addressed? Time limit 3 minutes each. Mr. Evans, you're on.
All right. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for doing this. I imagine it takes a lot of coordinating and a lot of work, so thank you for this. Briefly, my background is I'm a lifelong Oshkosh resident. I'm a product of the public schools, graduating from North High School. I know their basketball team's playing right now, so go North. Both my parents were long-term teachers in the Oshkosh Area School District. I'm a business owner for 26 years in downtown Oshkosh. And I'm serving my second 3-year term on the Business Improvement District Board, or better known as BID. I'm a founding member of Art Space Collective and a driving force behind the monthly gallery walks. My qualifications are that I've served on 2 of the Oshkosh Area School District Budget Reconciliation Committees, and that kind of whetted my appetite for working with the schools. As evident, I'm completing my 3rd year as a board member, and I'm currently the board clerk. The committees I serve on have been Education Committee for 3 years, and I chaired that committee for 2. Energy Committee for 3 years, and I have chaired it for the past 2 years. Administrator Compensation Committee Chair for the past 3 years, and this year I'm also on Facilities and Finance. I'm also the WASB Delegate Assembly for the past 3 years. And I have a strong desire to give back to the community by serving on the board. The reason why I'm seeking this post is I believe I can make a difference in the overall quality of education in Oshkosh. I realize that after 3 years, I'm still finding it interesting, and I'm still finding out that there are things that I am learning. So I find that exciting. As somebody said previously, as long as I find it exciting, I'm gonna keep going at it. Some of the upcoming school-related opportunities, initiatives, and positives that I see is obviously the first one is our new superintendent coming on board July 1st, Dr. Vicki Cartwright. I'm looking forward to working with her and seeing what she can do, building on what Stan Mack has accomplished and seeing where she can take this district in the future. Our one-to-one learning has been in effect for 3 years, where people have their own personal devices, which this is not. This is just a folder. All the way down through the 3rd grade, and the 2nd grade and 1st grades have them in the room on the cards. I'm excited to see how that is going to change the learning for Oshkosh. As a board, we decided that we should have an increased focus on advocacy, and we recently voted on a resolution to support school funding on transparency. And I think moving the graduation to Menominee Arena is going to be a very positive thing. Everybody's going to be able to see their picture on the big screen, and it's going to be air conditioned.
Yes.
That's good.
Allison.
All right. Well, I moved to Oshkosh in 2000, and I've been married for 19 years. I have two kids. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they both attend public school system here. My background, I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering. I also have an MBA, and I'm also a certified and credentialed professional coach. I spent 20 years in the oil industry. I was the vice president of a consulting firm. I'm one of the world's experts in aromatics extraction, and I'm also the founder of my own business now called Align Coaching. I've been on the board for 7 years. I've also served as the Shapiro Neuroscience Charter School Governing Board for 3 years. Currently, I am the president of the school board, and in that position, I also serve on the museum board. And I've done that for 2 years. I'm also on the Chancellor's Advisory Committee. I've done that for 2 years. And I am a Leadership Oshkosh graduate as of 2017. As a board member, I've served on all of the committees, and I was the chair of the Facilities and Finance Committee as well as the Education Committee. I served as treasurer for the board, as vice president of the board, and this is my second year as president. The reason I'm seeking this post, when I started 7 years ago, I was an angry parent. That's why I got involved. And what happened was when I got on the board, I was part of a movement that changed the trajectory of this district. And that felt amazing. And I had impact, and there was purpose, and there was meaning, and I couldn't get enough of it. And so I want to continue that. And the board that we have right now it consists of 7 people that I deeply respect and admire. And it has been a true pleasure to be on this board with them and be able to share the same values. Even though we disagree on a lot of things, we still come together at the end. So those are the reasons I'm seeking this position. Key upcoming school-related opportunities, I think that there's a few I'd like to highlight. I want to continue to build on the community support that we've enjoyed since Stan took over 6 years ago. I would love to see more partnerships, more alliances, maybe even some kind of advisory committees. I would like to improve our ability to meet the social emotional needs of our students more effectively. I'd like to reconsider where we focus, maybe swing the pendulum a little bit away from test scores and academics and more towards life skills and mindsets. And lastly, I would love to see us focus very laser-like on equity issues in our community and especially in our schools. Thanks.
Kelly?
Hi. First, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us and having this space for such important matters. And thank you all for coming. I know time is very precious, and I appreciate that and everybody tuning in. So a little bit about my background. I've been living in Oshkosh for 22 years. And I moved here after college, and I went to school, and then I was in the wedding business, a wedding consultant for 21 years. And I was blessed almost 5 years ago now that I could semi-retire. And I wanted to get back to my community, so I have 3 children that were in the district. One has already graduated and out of college. I have 2 currently in the district. And so I have that experience as a parent of going through the entire school system here, which has been very helpful. And then I also took that opportunity because I wanted to give back to my community as much as I could. And I had been on the PTO president. I was on the Lakeside committee for the design and the addition for Lakeside. I was involved with other aspects of education in the city, so I wanted to take the opportunity to keep going in that momentum with my passion. And then I was asked by quite a few members in the community to run for school board. And so I did. It just seemed like the next fit. So I am now finishing my 3rd year, and it was an enormous learning curve. And I feel that I've got it now, and I want to continue with what we're doing on the school board. I want to keep that passion alive. I want to make Oshkosh a better place through education, and so I would really like to continue my work on the school district Board of Education. I also am a graduate of Leadership Oshkosh. the best class. I have to say that or I'll get in trouble. 2016. And then I also am on the Education Committee, have been for 3 years. I am the chair for the Facility and Finance Committee. I was on Policy and Governance Committee for 2 years. I'm also the chair for 3 years for the Human and Health Development through our school district. Some of the opportunities I think that our school needs, a lot of more options. I think we need to look at more charter schools. We currently have one, and I think there's a huge opportunity for more and in different areas. And then also, I think that we need opportunity for diversity and cultural relevant instructions in our district. Some of the initiatives right now, I think we are moving forward, and one of the biggest ones for me is our facility and maintenance report. We're looking at a 50-year plan instead of just 5 and 10. A lot of our schools are 80-plus years old, and we've got 22 of them, plus a lot of other buildings. So that's a big initiative that we're taking under. And some of the positives, there's so many. Our enrollment was up this year. We did not lose any students this year. Our enrollment is over 10,000. That's a big jump for us. We hired a communications director. She's working very hard to help with our community and keeping them in all of their stuff. And then also our partnership with Oshkosh for Education and our local businesses.
Liz?
Yes. Thank you for having all of us. I really value what you do to help keep voters informed. As a mother to 4 young children, I am deeply invested in the success of Oshkosh Public Schools. Oshkosh Area School District can become a destination school district. Our schools can attract families to live in our area to improve our entire community. I really believe that, and that's what I've built my campaign around. I come from a family of educators. My father, my mother, my oldest brother, and I, we all built our careers in the public school system. I graduated from a top education university with a degree in English education. After graduation, I went to work in DC public schools. I sought that out intentionally. I wanted to work with at-risk students and bring quality education to an inner city school district. As a teacher, I have firsthand experience of what it's like to have education policy impact my classroom and the quality of instruction that I could offer my students. And this is really where my passion for education policy began. My time in DC public schools was mirrored perfectly with the tenure of Chancellor Michelle Rhee. I saw some of the changes she made and how teacher evaluation systems could either feel like a waste of time for teachers and not add value, or when she implemented some new programs, I saw that the changes she made directly impacted the quality of instruction that I could give my students. Another initiative was using data to analyze my students' test scores, their reading levels, not just the standardized test scores, which aren't always the best, but assessments that I gave them, to analyze that data and design specific lesson plans that could improve individual test scores in my classroom. And I saw some students jump as much as 2.5 levels in 1 year. And I think that experience that I have as a teacher of knowing the impact education policy can have on the classroom would be a valued perspective to our school board. As far as initiatives go, I was very excited with the hire of Dr. Cartwright, because she is also focused on using data to close the achievement gap and to improve student outcomes. I'm also really looking forward to the long-term facilities plan. Currently, there are no school board members serving, or let me back up. Currently, all the school board members live east of Jackson Street and Oregon Avenue. I live over in the town of Algoma, where I raise my 4 kids and the oldest 2 go to school there. And I think I can bring that missing perspective of West Side residents, especially as we make these long-term decisions and investments in our schools. I know our public schools do amazing things, and they still have potential for even more growth. And I am dedicated to making us a destination school district.
Thank you. Now for question 2. In your opinion, what school-related challenges, problems, changes need to be addressed? So we'll go from the rosy picture to the nuts and bolts.
Yes, best.
And this time, we're going to start with Liz.
Oh, that's right. So my first concern is that we need a teacher contract that competes with neighboring school districts. When I moved here and I told people that I was a teacher, I was often told just right up front that Oshkosh pays their teachers the least. Kind of like a whisper campaign to teachers out there. I think paying our teachers or creating a competitive contract is a key to making us a destination school district. I have been so impressed with the teachers that my students have had and some of the friends that I've made who are teachers at our local schools. And I really appreciate that they are committed to our community when I know that they could receive a pay increase if they went somewhere else. So I really value that. But we need to attract and retain the area's best teachers. Our students deserve that. Our teachers need to feel supported and appreciated, and we need to supply them with the materials they need to provide quality instruction. My second concern is the state of our school buildings. If we look at data from right here in our school district, we see that when our school buildings are old and dilapidated and falling apart, the families that live in that area school choice out of our schools. And if looking at the data on the flip side, we see that when our school buildings have been invested in and are built new and are modern, that we have families choosing to go to those schools. I think that this conversation we need to have as a community about the state of our school buildings is a really important and difficult one. Some of my top priorities will include discussing property locations that make sense, that can support community growth. Another concern I have is the enrollment size at some of our elementary schools. I think we need to discuss that as a community. And I think we should strive to have greater equity throughout the district as far as student enrollment goes. My priority will be to make decisions based on long-term investments and not short-term fixes.
Kelly?
Thank you. The challenges, a number one challenge for me is mental health. As a nation, our mental health has been increasing at a very high tick, a very high risk. School districts are being asked to do more with mental health and not giving the budget to support that. And even where to start or what we, by law, can and cannot offer, building partnerships with different places and different community health communities to help move that forward, the mental health piece and having actually open discussions about that. Another challenge we're having is, and this keeps happening, and it keeps being talked about, is we're challenged with trying to teach our children or have the correct curriculum because we're teaching our children for what's not unknown in the future. We don't know the future anymore. Jobs are changing so quickly, we don't know what curriculum or what we should be using, and we're using our best to move that forward and to be able to teach our children for the upcoming jobs or what is that. So I think a lot of it has to go with skill sets. The problems is we have an achievement gap here in Oshkosh between north and west, between elementary schools, and that we need to look at that. Another, and I agree with Liz, is that we do have a problem is we have a teacher shortage, and we don't compete with our districts surrounding us. We're losing teachers to different districts, and there's a teacher shortage to even get quality teachers in the district. A change coming, which I'm very excited about, is of course our new superintendent coming. So the change will be difficult, and I hope happy for our entire community. Our beloved Stan Mack is leaving us. Excited for his future, but it will be an enormous change for our entire community and our staff and students.
Allison?
Well, something that I've talked about every time I've run, and that is whether it's a problem or an opportunity, is decentralizing some of the power structure within our actual school district. A lot of the structure lands at central office, and a lot of decisions are then made that way. It's kind of a top-down model. And one thing that I would love to do is to find a way to offer more authority and autonomy to our staff and to our building leaders, which then leads to the next challenge, which is to attract and retain really great people. Like Liz and Kelly have alluded to, we do have a teacher shortage, and we also are a little bit behind the ball in what we do offer our teachers, given the budget pressures that we've had for the last, I don't know, 20 years or so. And then once we do attract them, how do we keep them so that we're not the training ground for really great teachers to then be poached by our surrounding districts? I also think that I would love to see us finally put the nail in the coffin of this net negative open enrollment. I want us to be a net positive where students, not only do we get to keep our own students, which is what I've always wanted to have, but can we start to attract students from other districts to open enroll into our district? I'm really troubled by the number of expulsions that have grown over the years, and I would love to see that be addressed. Obviously, achievement gaps are a problem, and whether that's with academics or even with life skills, we do have discrepancies between socioeconomic levels, between race, between regular ed and special ed, and I would love to see us be able to provide a quality education to all of our students and give everybody a level playing field. And then the last thing that we're working on, but we're still challenged with, is improving our communications internally and externally. I'd love to see us be able to address that. Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
It's so nice going forth, as I can just say, I agree with whatever
All of it.
everybody has said here. But just to kind of enforce some of the things, I think achievement gaps, as a board, where we've been focusing on for the achievement gaps for the 3 years I've been on. If you check the latest report card from the Department of Public Instruction, the needles are beginning to move, but it's still not, there's still room for improvement. And as Alvin said, when you add in poverty to the mix, there's a big problem with that. And we got to somehow address how poverty affects student learning. Budget is going to be a problem. We're still one of the lowest spending districts in Wisconsin. And even with the increases in per student spending that we're going to be getting, we're still below where we were before Act 10 cuts took place. So we're constantly behind districts that were spending heavily in the past. And then they got the caps locked in. And as Kelly mentioned, trauma and mental health, where it affects not only students, but faculty, staff, administration can suffer from trauma and mental health. We need to remove the stigma of mental health and encourage people to ask for help if they feel they need it. And I'll just leave it with one little bit of information here. I was at a seminar recently where the person was on mental health and trauma. And they mentioned one thing that really stuck with me, that if you hear a siren tonight, chances are somebody's not going to go into school tomorrow because of trauma or something. That really stuck with me. So we need to work on that. Now let's get to the fun questions from the audience.
I like this better.
What did
The
we
questions.
cook up, huh? Okay, I'm going to let Heather begin. And she's picked out a question that we have put together for you. So there you go, Heather.
She mean Grace.
Grace?
Okay, so studies show that high school students do better in school with a later start time, yet schools continue to start early. Is this merely a convenience to adults or bus lines? What is your solution to providing a later start time for high school students?
We're going to start with Allison and go this way and then end with Jim.
Can I ask to
Can you
clarify?
repeat the
Yeah,
question?
can you
I
repeat that
didn't hear
question?
Oh,
That
yeah.
didn't make
the
sense.
question.
Let me add a comment on this. We did have a presenter at one of our League of Women Voters lunches, and they're working in the area of mental health. And one of the things they found out is that studies do show that high school students do better with a later start time. So our question is pretty much, at least in front of my house, there's a school bus there at 6:45 in the morning. I want to tell them to be quiet. So I want to know, is this happening? Can this happen?
Okay.
And do you think it should happen?
Okay, thank you. So it is happening. We do start the high school students last. The impetus was twofold. The first is that we do know that neuroscience shows that teens are more, they perform better when they're able to sleep in a little bit later. Their circadian rhythms are different, right? They're night owls and they can sleep in. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was we can share bus schedules. And so what happens is we end up starting the elementary kids first. So that's the bus that you're probably hearing. And then those buses deliver all the kids to the 14 elementary, well, not all of them, but most of the outskirts. And then we use those same buses, and it was a huge savings. Then they come back and pick up middle and high school kids. They share those bus lines. So all the middle and high school kids take the same buses, and then they're transferred. They all go to the middle schools and then transfer off to the high schools from there. So we are doing that. Here's the rub. Since we started doing it, we didn't see an increase in performance, so we need to dig into that. So thanks. Yeah.
Kelly? Exactly what Allison said. So we did a couple years ago switch the time, so the high schoolers do start later. But we have added the 0 hour. I'm going to touch base on that. We've added the 0 hour because students who are in high school and who have sports or other academic or athletic things right after school needed to go earlier because they were missing classes at the end of school. So I know that when my son was there, he had chemistry, UW chemistry at the last hour, and we went into his counselor and had to put that at the beginning of his schedule because if he missed that, and he was a 3-sport student, so if he missed that time frame at the end of the day, he would miss a lot of content of class. So then he never was able to take advantage of the 0 hour. But we have put in the 0 hour because the first time, kids were missing too many classes for leaving for sporting events and other things within our outlying districts competition. So then we put the 0 hour in. So kids are still going early because they have to make up the difference. And we just, I have to stop, but yeah. So.
That's right. I'll
Yes.
jump on some of what you
Thank
said.
you.
So the research is really clear that it's best if school start times are later. I calculated some of the hours myself. If our elementary schools cut 10 minutes, students would get 30 extra hours of sleep, assuming that they sleep for those just 10 minutes a day throughout the school year. They get 30 extra hours of sleep, which I think, as a mother to young children, is very important for their development. As far as why, Allison talked about that we haven't seen the improvements that we would have liked to when we made those changes to school start times at the high school level. I think what Kelly talked about, the 0 hour, is probably one of the big factors in why we didn't see the improvements that we wanted, because I think a lot of kids are still coming to sports early or coming to a class early or have other commitments that have made it so that they haven't necessarily got the extra sleep that we would have hoped that they had gotten.
Jim?
Well, I don't know who did the study, but I could save them a lot of money because I know for me it was definitely true. I didn't really start clicking until about 3rd hour. I know there are several issues involved with it. If you start moving the start time back, you start bumping up against intramurals and sport practices and swimming practices. I know I just mentioned swimming by itself, but I did. The school year now is not based on the old 180-day, must meet for 180-day schedule. It's based on total minutes. So just cutting some time off the front, it has to be added into the back, because you got to maintain that amount of time that we got to hold school. So it's, I know it'd be good, but it's a lot of moving parts into this to start later.
First, I want to apologize for calling Grace by the wrong name. I won't make that mistake again. And now, I'm going to ask a question, because you all mentioned the new superintendent. And I'm asking, will programs initiated under the previous superintendency be put on hold, any of them, while the district waits to see what the new superintendent's plans are? Who would like to begin?
Is it my turn to start? Yeah, I'll start.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for Dr. Cartwright, because I think that would be, obviously that's her decision as superintendent. But from our conversations with her and my understanding of what I would hope and what I think myself being on the board, I would suggest not to. I think she needs to come in and look at what is set, see and do studies on what we have set in there and the programs that we do have, see if they work, are they not working, and then make her own judgment and speak with everybody she works with, all the administration team, the exec team, staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, janitors, speak with all of them to see and get her own opinion. But I don't think her coming in and just making those changes immediately or stopping programs or starting programs is a very healthy start or a good transition for any superintendent to do in a school. So I think that takes time, and then she can use her judgment with collaboration from the entire staff of our district.
Liz?
Yeah, I agree. Having worked, starting as a teacher with a brand-new superintendent, it can be tumultuous if they come in and have all their new ideas and they abruptly change things. So I agree that hopefully she would take time to really look at what we're doing, look at what's working well, and keep those programs, but I also trust that she would have ideas and experiences from her background that could improve our school district, and I would hope that she would implement those over time. And I think that's exciting to have someone to come in and to continue adding on to the great things that the school district is currently doing. And I had another thought, but I lost it, so I'll pass it down.
Jim?
Obviously, when a new superintendent comes into a district, you got to let them have their freedom to do things. After talking with Dr. Cartwright several times, I don't not see her as somebody that's going to come in and say, this is the way it's going to be from now on. Day one, we're changing everything. I just can't see her doing that. I think, as Kelly said, she's going to talk to the faculty, she's going to talk to administration staff, talk to the students. That's one reason why she's coming in early, is to actually talk to students when they're still in school. And I think it's going to be a very smooth transition, and I think, as I mentioned before, there's going to be good things on the horizon for the school district.
Allison?
So the question is, will the current programs be put on hold? I'm not sure I know exactly how to answer that question, because I don't know what programs you're referring to. What we have now is a strategic plan, and everything that we do always goes back to the strategic plan. So that stays regardless of who's sitting in that superintendency and regardless of who's sitting on the school board. So that strategic plan will still stand when she shows up. The beauty of Vicki is that she has a history of collaboration, and when we talked to her about how would she transition over into the district, she spent a lot of time telling us how she would get herself steeped into the school community as well as to the wider community and the businesses, and getting to know more about the partnerships and the alliances that have already been built. So I don't think there's anybody coming in and, scorched earth kind of approach. I think she's going to come in and make a real smooth transition.
Okay, and then the next question is from the audience, and it says, how would you ensure that youth are involved in informing policies that affect them?
And who would like to start?
Jim?
This way for-
No? Start
You
again.
want me
I
to
mean,
go
we're
back?
going
Kelly,
down,
go
so
for
I
it.
think
I'll
Liz.
guess,
Did
I'll
you
start
say?
again.
Oh, I thought you said
Yeah,
you would.
I don't, sure. I think that is something I'm excited with our new superintendent, Vicki Cartwright. She has said that she wanted to get, she's really involved with the students. She wanted to ask a lot of questions of students and get them involved. So that I'm looking forward to that. Currently, though, our school board has invited, we do have representation from both of our high schools at our school board meetings that come in, and they come in once a month, and they do share what's going on at their schools. They do sit on those meetings. They are involved in those conversations. I know that some of that is went back to the student, and both of these students are on the student councils at their respective schools. And they do go back and they do get involved. We do ask, not that they always show up, but we do ask our students to come in into the school board. We are so open to our students coming in and sharing with us. We just had 2 students from Stride come in and talk to us. We've had students with our partnerships with India come in and share with us. We've had many different students come in. We have music come in. To get them involved, if they can contact us directly. If they want to start their own, they can contact us too.
Liz?
Yes. And I would say at a board meeting that I was at recently, there were 2 students that came and presented to the board about some initiatives that they're making at their high school and even going into the middle school and working there. So it's exciting to see students being involved and being passionate about their schools. I think one thing that the district already does well is when surveys, like surveys about the new superintendent, when those are sent out, students are able to participate in that and to give feedback. So I see that as an opportunity to continue to let students guide policy decisions. And I do think student feedback is important to see, you know, how do they feel about things like the school start time or, you know, things like the mental health issues and that kind of education that's going on in their school. So hopefully we'll continue to listen for student input.
It's been pointed out already. We do have the 2 student reps, and we do have students come to the meetings. And we have been contacted through email by students in the past about issues. I think probably our communications director will, now that our communications is on the upswing on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, or probably would encourage students more to contact us through her efforts. So I think there are multiple ways that students can get a hold of us if they wish and express their concerns.
And I'll just add to all of that, that we do our own board evaluations every year. And one of the things that we've not scored ourselves well on is getting out into the buildings. And so I think that that's another opportunity for school board members is to get out, meet with students, talk to teachers. There's a lot of kids, so it's pretty daunting and overwhelming to think about trying to, meet with
10,000.
Yeah, there's about 10,000 kids. However, the beauty of children always is that if you just show up and start asking questions, that they'll talk and they'll tell and they can guide a lot of what we do. So, yeah, I'd like to see us, I want to do a better job of that. I know some of our board members do a great job of that. That's something that is a challenge for me. I want to do a better job of that.
All right. I have a question for you. Do you think the school district needs to work actively to improve? I know you're already doing a lot. To improve diversity among students and staff? And what actions would you like to see the district take? And I'm going to begin with Liz.
Yes. So I don't know exactly how the district could seek to improve diversity among the students. I think we can promote the diversity. I value diversity greatly, and I think that that is a good opportunity where we can help students learn about each other's cultures, about each other's family traditions, even. Those are some things that can promote diversity. And I do think it's important to have diverse staff. Students need to see people from all backgrounds, having successful careers in education, and I think that promoting diversity through our staff is something that we could do as a district and that would be beneficial.
Mr. Evans?
Okay. I think diversity in our schools would be a very good thing. As Liz said, it's for students, it's, if they choose to live here. For staff, as we mentioned before, education, people going to education is down overall across the country. It's even lower for minorities going into the education field. So that pool of people that we can hire is small and getting smaller. I am proud to say that we had a very diverse field of candidates for the superintendent. And if you notice that our new superintendent is not a white male, so that's good. So it's a problem, and I think we need to deal with it with what we can.
So to actively improve diversity among our staff, again, I don't know how to improve amongst our students other than how we attract and retain families in our district. But for our staff, we've been approached, and I don't know how many of our staff actually take advantage of racial literacy training that is offered here by people within our own community. I don't know how much cultural understanding training that they receive or look for. I know the UWO Chancellor Levitt started a talent coalition, and I'm a part of that coalition. And one of the things that we talked about is how amazing it would be if in Oshkosh our leadership, the people in leadership represented the demographics of the people that they lead. And I would love to see that happen in our school district.
I agree with my fellow candidates up here. I think the main things we need to do is use our local organizations here. We have quite a few here that will help us with diversity training, with even acknowledging it, and a lot of cultural relevance training and cultural response training, respecting each other's cultures, listening to it, having you know, I know other districts have meetings where you can get together and learn about different cultures. Anything just to make that a little bit more open and have that conversation open and be able to, it's all about being open-minded and learning knowledge and acceptance and understanding and being transparent with all of the other, the cultures and the diversities. And I think I would love to start an initiative or to be involved in an initiative with opening up, you know, the training, and I know we do some in the district, but not the extent that it should be or could be done. There could be a lot more, it could go up a lot further.
Grace has a question.
Is there a district policy on cell phone use in schools or classrooms, and what is your opinion on this topic?
Notice it was cell phones, not iPads and things like that.
Or Chromebooks.
Or Chromebooks. And let me just say that I just read that in France, no student can bring a cell phone into the classroom. They can have it, you know, locked away somewhere in their locker or something, backpack, or if they're young students, the teacher holds on to it. So, go ahead. Who would like to start? Don't all jump at once. Jim?
Barb can probably answer this better, but I don't know if there is a policy on banning, I don't think they are banned from the classroom. I don't think the parents would like that. I know that at some point, teachers probably say cell phones away. We're doing the test now, but I think that parents would demand that their kids be able to have their cell phone so they can get a hold of them if they need to.
Well, they still could get a hold, they just couldn't use it during the class. Apparently, that's what France has ruled anyway. So, I was wondering if there's a conflict between this teacher says yes, this teacher says no. Would a policy smooth something like that over? Allison?
The policy, as I understand it, is that children are absolutely allowed to bring cell phones to the schools. And most schools that are elementary and middle do not allow students to bring them into the classroom. They're to stay in the lockers. So if something were to happen and they can't get to their locker, then they can't get a hold of their cell phone. In the high schools, they are allowed to have them on their person. And the focus at the time that, and I think it was 2011 when we finally, or maybe it was 10, where we took the ban off of cell phones for our students. The focus was these kids need to learn how to use their cell phones appropriately, and how can they learn if they can't bring them and use them and make mistakes and do all the things that we do when we learn. So, yeah, I'm absolutely supportive of having cell phones and then teaching kids how to use them appropriately.
I agree with Allison. With the students, all students are allowed to bring them. I have students and my children in school, and the younger, my elementary school student does not have one, but my middle school student does, and she has to keep in the locker. And I know that that is pretty much across the board with all of our middle schools. You have to keep them in your locker, and they can use them at lunch or, you know, when their passing time. I also support having the cell phones. I do support it in high school, And I think it should be up to the teachers, or even maybe, you know, the principal on what kind of culture they want in their school, and if they want, I think that's a school that they control that themselves. I don't know that there needs to be an over blanket of that. And especially nowadays with how busy kids are and safety issues, I know I want my student to have a phone on them all the time. If they need, you know, with safety issues, and until things on that get more under control, I do agree that I think they should have access to their phones.
Liz?
Yes, so I agree that at the high school level, it should be a decision made at that school and amongst the staff there. I would support, I've been reading similar things to you actually about bans, not just in France, but here in the States, that the research suggests that students should be able to bring them to middle school and that they should be kept in their locker all day. I would support something like that. And the reason the research suggests that is because of the mental health impact that social media has on children that young. And, you know, we've talked about mental health issues and how that's important. And I think making sure that students have a time frame while they're at school to be away from social media and specifically the middle school students, I'm speaking more to the younger students, I think that's important, that they learn social skills with their peers at lunch instead of with their phone. So I think that's a good question to bring up.
I have a question, and I have to give a tiny bit of background. My daughter's a scientist at University of California, Davis, and the scientists in her lab and in other labs are concerned with the fact that humanities seem to be avoided, and also a curiosity among students on the graduate level and undergraduate level of the university seems to be ignored. So I put together this question. What changes would you like to see in the current curriculum? For example, is the emphasis on STEM so strong that humanities are being neglected? And I think in STEM, I'm thinking of learning just the nuts and bolts. There's no in curiosity, inquisitiveness going on. So what changes would you like to see in the curriculum?
I think it's my turn, even though this is like perfectly teed up for,
You want to
for
start,
our
Allison?
arts and humanities expert. Yeah, I absolutely believe that we're putting a focus back really strictly in the STEM fields. And we're saying because, you know, that those are the careers of the future. And what's so fascinating to me is that when I look back and I think of how innovative the United States has been over the years, it was never because we let go of all of the humanities and all the liberal arts. And I think that that's where the creativity, one of the many places that creativity can come from. And then I think about the kids that don't want STEM. I come from a world of STEM. I was, you know, immersed in it. And I lived it for 20 years, and I really believed in it until I stepped out of it. And now that I've seen how amazing all of these other industries and fields are and how far they've come as I have gotten away from the STEM industry, I'm a convert. I believe in humanities now, so I support them, yeah.
Kelly?
You specifically asked what curriculum changes we might make. I will allude to what Allison had said before, is the testing. I think there's too much focus on testing and test scores, and there's too much check marks in a classroom. I think the classroom should be given a little bit more leniency. Teachers should be given them more leniency to teach what they need to teach. And this is all coming from government down. You know, these are things that we have to abide by law. We have to take these tests. You need to hit these benchmarks. You're graded on these benchmarks. And the more assessments you take, the more check boxes are done, the more creativity is taken away. We have to do this, and you have to hit science, and you have all those STEM classes, but then the things that get hit the hardest is your music, is your gym, is your art. Those are easy classes to take away from to give to the other ones. And I would think that it would be even between the two of them.
Liz?
Yeah, So as an English educator, I was right in the heart of humanities. There is something very powerful about reading a work of literature with a group of teenagers and discussing it and dissecting it, and you really get to talk about humanity, about how humans interact with each other, and I could see students, thinking about the impact that they could have on the world. So I am very passionate about humanities. My first grader, his favorite subject is art. I am not an artist at all. But I love seeing him take that passion with art education, and I think it's very important. Specific things that we could do to our curriculum, I think just, like Kelly said, making sure it's balanced, making sure that we keep dedicating resources to art education and to reading and to literacy. I think reading is an area in our district that we could try and improve. Our math scores are above average in the state, and our reading scores, depending on the schools, they vary, but they are not quite where they should be. So I think a focus on humanities would be important.
Jim?
Thank you so much for this question.
Thought you would like it.
I have been a STEAM guy for the 3 years I've been on the board, and we had a Skype conference with a person from Canada last night, and he mentioned in Google that people are getting advanced, or the people that are not getting advanced are the people that are in the computer sciences and the tech field. The people that are getting advanced have a background in humanities. And we were at the WASB convention in January, and the keynote speaker said that he feels that STEAM is going to be such a big part of the future of education that he can see it changing. And that's one thing I'd like to see changed in the Oshkosh School District. And hopefully I'll have 3 more years to try to get it in. With our reading program, one of the things they're doing is they're having reading spread out throughout every course. So in physical ed, you're going to be reading, and music, you're going to be reading. We can do the same thing with arts, where you're going to have art spread across the entire spectrum of classes.
I take it STEAM puts the A in the,
STEM.
okay, okay. Let's ask this question, this one, and make them answer yes, no, very quick.
Yeah, look at the time.
All right. So what is your opinion on the school district providing students with the opportunity to ride the city buses for free, or showing their school ID card in place for a bus pass or for money?
Just a quick answer.
Yes.
Yes, I support that.
Well, it didn't have to be that quick.
Well, you said tell them yes or no,
Yeah.
right?
Follow the
Sorry.
I certainly think there needs to be something done. As was mentioned with the city council debate, the numbers that the ESSER group has and what the school district has don't quite line up.
Right.
But just to be brief, I think one of the things that I noticed that this transit company does that's not done in other school districts is the 6-year-old pays the same fare as a 59-year-old. They don't have a student fare, where a lot of the other school districts have a student fare. I think that in itself would be a big help if we can get the transit company to get a student fare, at least through 18.
Allison?
I support the free passes.
Okay.
Student ID, I think that's important. The use of the student ID, I think, is a key part of that, too.
Yes, and this also was a league lunch topic, so that's where it came from. And I think it would be a good thing too, but I shouldn't give my opinion. But I am going to close our session. We are getting very close to our 9 o'clock deadline. And this concludes the forum for the Oshkosh Area School Board. The election is Tuesday, April 3. You may vote for 3 of these 4 candidates for a 3-year term on the Oshkosh Area School Board. And I thank you all for coming down here. Might also mention there is early voting in the city of Oshkosh. I think it's 10 days, not counting weekends, before the election. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you may register at the polls when you go to vote on Election Day. You need to take proof of residence with you, and everyone must show a photo ID. You can go to www.myvote.wi.gov to find registration, ballot, acceptable photo IDs, and polling place information. Please note that 4 polling place locations have changed in Oshkosh. And I think it is 4 schools that have no longer will have polling places, and a church nearby has picked it up. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Media, I want to thank all the candidates, the moderators, Ann Marshall and Kathy Prop, and our panel member, Grace Halstead, for participating in this forum. And finally, thanks to our audience in the studio, and to those tuning in via television, radio, Oshkosh Media, YouTube, or streaming video. Our democracy depends on citizen involvement. Please vote on April 3rd.